Hi, I'm AnewZ and you're watching AnewZ. Here are the headlines. AnewZ obtains exclusive photos of the Azal plane, further confirming the aircraft was subject to external interference. Ukraine launches a surprise counteroffensive in Russia's Kursk region. Austrian Chancellor announces resignation as coalition talks collapse. Thank you for tuning in. AnewZ has obtained exclusive photos of the Azerbaijan Airlines plane that tragically crashed near Aktau in December 2024. The images, including interior shots of the aircraft fuselage, clearly depict signs of damage consistent with external interference, with shrapnel impact marks clearly visible. According to Azerbaijani government sources, preliminary investigations suggest that the aircraft was struck by a missile fired from a Russian Pantsir-S air defense system while approaching Grozny. Earlier, the Azerbaijani transport minister said that a rocket attack had occurred, though the type of missile was yet to be determined. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev stated that the aircraft was unintentionally shot down by Russian air defenses over Russian territory. Aliyev demanded a full admission of guilt, punishment for those responsible, and compensation for the victims and their families. The investigation continues as authorities seek definitive answers. Russia reported a Ukrainian counter-offensive in its western Kursk region, where Ukrainian forces have been holding ground for months. Officials in Ukraine have also suggested an operation is underway. In the meantime, Ukraine said it intercepted a large number of drones launched by Russia in an overnight attack.
Russia claims that Ukraine launched the counterattack in the Kursk region, targeting Russian forces with a combination of tanks and armored vehicles. Ukrainian forces have held territory in this area since August, further complicating conflict dynamic. On the other hand, Ukraine's Air Force confirmed shooting down 61 out of 103 drones launched by Russia overnight. Another 42 drones were lost through electronic warfare. No major damage or casualties have been reported. Russian airports in Nizhnekamsk, Izhevsk, and Perm temporarily halted flights on Sunday morning due to potential drone threats. Moscow has consistently stated that its military actions are in response to threats from Kyiv and its Western allies. Russian officials accuse Ukraine of targeting civilian areas with its drone strikes, urging international scrutiny of Ukraine's tactics. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stressed the need to strengthen national air defense capabilities.
The task remains unchanged, strengthening our air defense. We are already preparing for the upcoming meeting in Ramstein, scheduled for next week. Dozens of partner countries will participate, including those capable of boosting our defense not only against missiles, but also against guided bombs and Russian aircraft. We will be discussing this with them and working to persuade them. Lives need protection here and now in Ukraine, and air defense systems must be operational for this purpose. I want to thank all our partners who understand this and help us develop an air shield.
As Ukraine focuses on bolstering its air defenses, the upcoming Ramstein meeting is expected to involve discussions on international support for addressing the ongoing conflict.
Yemen's Houthi rebels claim they launched a hypersonic missile strike on Israel's Orot Rabin power station in the country's northwest. The group says the attack was carried out with the Palestine II hypersonic ballistic missile. On Sunday night, the Israeli military said that the missile fired from Yemen had been intercepted before reaching Israeli territory. An air raid alert was issued in central Israel at the time. Over in the US, Americans across the country are concerned about possible new security threats and attacks as officials implement measures to enhance national security following the recent incidents.
Cities across the U.S. are starting this year with high alert security following the Bourbon Street attack in New Orleans and the vehicle explosion outside a Trump hotel in Las Vegas. Such incidents have caused more fear of threats in a month packed with large-scale public events, including former President Jimmy Carter's state funeral on January 9th and President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration on January 20th. The Sugar Bowl in New Orleans was postponed by 1 day due to the attack, resulting in enhanced security measures with detection dogs utilized at the event. In New York, there was enhanced security outside of Trump Tower, key train stations like Penn Station, and several other venues across the city. Meanwhile, before the anniversary of the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol, the FBI released new footage of the unsolved pipe bomb case. The suspect placed 2 pipe bombs near the Capitol before the attack, but police deactivated them. The FBI has received over 600 tips and offered a $500,000 reward, but after 4 years, they still have not identified the suspect.
Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter began his final journey through his home state of Georgia as a casket containing his body departed the Phoebe Sumter Medical Center near his hometown of Plains. Current and former special agents from the U.S. Secret Service carried the casket to the hearse. Mourners holding U.S. flags and members of the Carter family gathered for the transfer, which marks the beginning of Carter's state funeral. A funeral service will be held at the Washington National Cathedral on Thursday, after which Carter's body will be flown back to Georgia for a private burial. A vigil was held in New Orleans where 14 people were killed by a U.S. Army veteran who drove a pickup truck into a crowd of New Year's revelers. The makeshift memorial was adorned with candles, flowers, and victims' pictures.
Following the tragic event on New Year's Eve, when a man drove a truck into a crowd in New Orleans, killing 14 people and injuring 30 others, residents and visitors gathered on Saturday for a vigil to honor the victims. Several hundred people assembled on Bourbon Street, a well-known area famous for its lively nightlife and vibrant music scene. Attendees placed candles, paintings, and 5-foot crosses at 2 memorial sites to pay their respects.
It's important for me to be here, not just me because I'm a local, and the things that have happened, this man, is just because I know I could have been out here if I wasn't helping my sister out and whatever I had to do for my family at that time. But I know if I wouldn't have been doing that, then I would have been out here myself. You know, either I would have been working or just out here with some friends or whatever like that. So I know it could have been me, it could have been anybody, but we also had a friend named Tasha, and she passed, the tragedy that happened.
Well, one of our good friends, Elliot Wilkerson, passed away in the tragedy that happened on Bourbon Street the other night on New Year's Eve. He was fun to be around. He was a great friend. He was a great to hang around with. We had good talks. He always had great advice. Make sure I stayed safe, because whenever I was on the street too, he would be a great sense of like hanging out, making sure I would stay safe. Just great all-around guy.
I feel that people were not expecting this, and to start the year like this, it's overwhelming, and we feel very sorry for all the victims here.
What about families?
The families, people that they left behind. Exactly. Yeah. So it's definitely something that we need to value, right, and understand, and just feel like, I don't know, like sometimes you just come in here and then you say goodbye to your family. You say we'll be here tomorrow, and then you don't. You don't appear the next day. So it's horrible.
On Friday evening, the city released the names of 12 of the 14 victims. All had died from blunt force trauma, according to the official release. A 13th victim, identified by the Metropolitan Police in London, was a British citizen.
Tens of millions of Americans are bracing for a huge winter storm that could bring the heaviest snowfall and coldest temperatures in over a decade. The storm, which started in the middle of the U.S., will move east in the next couple of days, the National Weather Service said. A state of emergency has been declared in the states of Kentucky and Virginia. The storm began Saturday afternoon, fueled by a deep surge of moist air moving north out of the Gulf of Mexico. Forecasters say the extreme weather is being caused by the polar vortex, an area of cold air that circulates around the Arctic. Guatemala has sent 75 more soldiers to Haiti on Saturday to assist in combating gang violence that's been on the rise in the country. This is the second contingent of security forces from Guatemala deployed in Haiti.
75 Guatemalan military troops have arrived in Haiti to reinforce the ongoing multinational security support mission in the country. This is the last group of security forces from Guatemala, following an earlier dispatch of 75 officers, bringing the total to 150 as promised by the Guatemalan government. This operation to fight off the rising gangs in Haiti is led by Kenya, whose mission commander-in-chief expressed gratitude for the additional support.
These reinforcements will significantly enhance our capacity to combat criminal gangs. Today, as we are here again to receive the second and the final group of Guatemalan officers, I extend my sincere gratitude to the government of Guatemala for their support and for demonstrating true solidarity with the Asian people.
The presence of gangs in the country has worsened as more territories fall under their control. With an escalation of violence, thousands of people have been forced to flee their homes. Last month, a group of armed men opened fire at a government press conference, leaving 2 reporters and a police officer dead. The government of Haiti has issued a state of emergency as it battles the gangs that have taken control of much of the capital, Port-au-Prince. Some 10 countries have together pledged over 3,000 troops for Haiti, but few have so far deployed.
Austrian Chancellor Karl Nehammer said he will resign in the coming days, both as Chancellor and party leader, after talks about forming a coalition government collapsed. Nehammer said his Conservative People's Party and the Social Democrats had failed to agree on key issues. The liberal NEOs, another party involved in the talks, also pulled out on Friday. In September, the far-right Freedom Party won an unprecedented victory in Austria's general election, but the other parties ruled out forming a coalition with the Freedom Party's leader, Herbert Kickl. The collapse of the talks could lead to the Conservatives negotiating with the far-right or to a new election taking place.
In den letzten Tagen haben sich die politischen Ereignisse.
Political events have come thick and fast in the last few days. To my regret, the NEOs have pulled out of the negotiations. However, the People's Party and I, as chairman, still wanted to do everything we could to form a stable and workable government. That is why we held another round of negotiations with the SPO today. Unfortunately, I have to report to you today, these negotiations have ended and will not be continued by the People's Party.
Und es ist schlecht.
Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy is expected to appear in court in Paris on Monday, as the trial around a suspected illegal financing of his victorious election campaign in 2007 by the Libyan regime of Muammar Gaddafi will begin. Sarkozy is being prosecuted for passive corruption, concealment of embezzlement of public funds, illegal financing of an electoral campaign, and criminal association. The trial, in which several businessmen and former ministers are implicated, is expected to last until April 10th, at a rate of 3 afternoons per week, after 10 years of investigation. The former president became the first in France to be sentenced to a prison term in December 2024 in the wiretapping case. Russia remains Armenia's top trading partner, according to data from Armenia's Statistical Committee, showing that Russia's exports to the country surged by $5.6 billion to nearly $8.3 billion during the first 10 months of 2024. At the same time, Armenia's trade turnover with the United Arab Emirates grew more than 5-fold, reigniting discussions about Yerevan's role as a major conduit for exports of Russian gold and diamonds to global markets. Armenia's domestic gold production accounts only for a fraction of the official figures, backing reports of Yerevan helping Moscow to circumvent gold trade sanctions the West imposed following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In South Korea, thousands of people rallied for and against the arrest of impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol. The warrant for Yoon's arrest on grounds of insurrection is set to expire at midnight on Monday.
Thousands of people braved heavy snow in South Korea's capital, Seoul, to rally for and against arresting impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol. This comes as the court approved an arrest warrant for Yoon on the basis of alleged insurrection. Now, with the warrant set to expire at midnight on Monday, multiple groups hold demonstrations near his residence, some urging his immediate arrest and others protesting against it.
I live nearby, and even when it snows or when the weather is cold, we need to keep coming here to protest. A place like this where many people gather will be less cold, right? So I will keep coming out to rally until the president is impeached.
Tomorrow, our patriotic citizens will definitely stand by the president. Even if the anti-government forces may extend the arrest warrant, we will still stand by President Yoon Suk-yeol until the end and protect our liberal democracy.
The impeachment of Yoon Suk-yeol follows his botched attempt to declare martial law last month. He's been suspended from his official duties while the Constitutional Court decides whether to reinstate or remove him. Earlier, Yoon's security service blocked criminal investigators from arresting him, which led to a 6-hour standoff. They claim their failure to cooperate is because of the legal debate surrounding the arrest warrant, in which Yoon's lawyer argues is illegal.
The Presidential Security Service did not intend any kind of bother to the law enforcement of the investigation agencies. Although the impeachment motion for President Yoon Suk-yeol has been passed at the National Assembly, Yoon is still the current president of this country, who is elected by the sovereign residents of South Korea, and Yoon is receiving the appropriate security service according to that, as stipulated by law.
Yoon is South Korea's first incumbent president to face an arrest.
In Japan, the top bidder at a Tokyo fish market has paid $1.3 million for a tuna, the second highest price ever paid at the annual prestigious New Year auction. The prized catch, weighing 276 kilograms, was jointly bought by renowned tuna wholesaler Yamayuki and upscale sushi restaurant Sushi Ginza Onodera for 207 million yen. It is the second highest price paid at the opening auction of the year in Tokyo's main fish market since comparable data started being collected in 1999, with the record being set in 2019, when a tuna was sold for $3.1 million. That's all we have for you for now. Thank you for tuning in and keep watching AnewZ.